We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Zayin and Beis in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 77b. On the previous summit, the Gemara said that osios are niknos b'mesira, means to say that documents are acquired through giving over the document and not writing up another document. And the Gemara said that is logical because osios, documents, are mili, they are words, and words cannot be acquired with other words. And the Gemara is in the middle of questioning that by bringing a teaching from Rav Huna. Rav Huna said, let's say you have a mocher who wants to sell property, but he hasn't found a buyer yet, but he needs the money, so he writes up a document of sale early. Ka'osa shashaninu, it's like what we learned in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Kosvin shtar lemocher afal pishein lokeach imo. This is a Mishnah later on. We can write a document for a seller even though the buyer is not with him. And so let's say you write up such a document, Kevon shehechzik zeh bekarka, once this person has taken possession of the land, nikne shtar b'chol makom shu, so he acquires the document wherever it is. V'zui sheshaninu, and this is what we learned in the Mishnah, this is from Meseches Kiddushin, nechasim she'ein lan achrayis, niknen im nechasim sheyesh lan achrayis, if you have property with no lien, meaning if you have movable property, that can be acquired along with property that has a lien, meaning to say that can be acquired along with land, kesef ushtar v'chazaka. When you have a kinyan kesef or a kinyan shtar or a kinyan chazaka, meaning to say essentially when this buyer takes possession of the land, he's automatically going to take possession of the shtar as well. And the Gemara now is asking this as a question because again the shtar is mili, and the Gemara is assuming that it's just through mili, through words, that the buyer is taking possession of this document. But the Gemara answers that's not what's happening here at all. Agav shani, this is a kinyan agav. A kinyan agav is different. A kinyan agav is essentially a kinyan where you make a kinyan on land and the movable property comes along with it. And how do we know a kinyan agav is different? Because, for example, coins, you cannot acquire coins through a kinyan chalipin, through a kinyan of exchange. The agav ara nikni, but if you do a kinyan agav, if you acquire the coins through a kinyan that you made on land, that is a good acquisition, and that's what's happening over here. It has nothing to do with the idea of mili being acquired with other mili. And how do we know that a kinyan agav works by money? Ki hadar Rapapa, it's like what we find by Rapapa, havule treser alfe zuze bechozoi. He had a 12,000 zuz by bechozoi. Akninu nihile l'Rav Shmuel Baracha, and he acquired it too. He gave it over, meaning he gave the money to Rav Shmuel Baracha. Agav aseifa debeis, and he did a kinyan agav through the threshold of his house, and that kinyan worked. And kiyasa nafak liape atavach. When Rav Shmuel Baracha came with the money, he went out to greet him to tavach, meaning he was happy that he was able to get his money back. And so you see that a kinyan agav works by money. And the Rashbam explains the question of the Gemara, v'kasal gadai dechashta. Right now the Gemara thinks the hashtar b'mili bialma mikni, that the shtar is being acquired just with words. Shenisratza hamocher lahaknos l'lokeach. The seller is agreeing to give the document to the buyer. V'afal pishalo bo hashtar liyado de lokeach kanile. And even though the shtar didn't come to the hands of the lokeach, still he acquires it. Kol shekain lael. And certainly earlier, the shtar b'shtar mikni, where a document is being acquired with another document, the ilu hacha afilu b'mili greda kanile below shtar. Because over here, even without a document, just words alone are working. V'kol shekain de mikni b'mili haksuvim b'shtar. Certainly a shtar should be able to be acquired with another shtar. And the Rashbam continues, umeshani, and the Gemara answers, mai dekani shtar agav. What's happening over here with the kinyan on the shtar is actually a kinyan agav. Agav arashani, when you have a kinyan agav through land, it's different. The kevon shehechzik bekarka kani le l'shtar agav ara. Once you make a chazak on the land, so you acquire the shtar through the land. The mikroi nafkal, and this idea of kinyan agav is learned from Sukkim, bekiddushin, and Meseches kiddushin. V'lav hainu mili. It's not even a case of mili over here, so it's no question at all. Elamaisa gadol hu k'mashichas hamamanatzma. You're actually doing a great action like pulling the money itself, and that's why the kinyan is effective in this case. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, "Avolo machar lo es ha'avadim v'lo es ha'marzufin v'lo es ha'antiki." When somebody sells a ship, he does not sell along with the ship the slaves and the packing bags and the antike. And the Gemara says, "My antike, what is antike?" Amar Rapapa. Rapapa says, "Iska de v'gava." It's referring to the merchandise that is on the ship that is not sold together with the ship. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Machar es hakaron la machar es haprados. If somebody sells a wagon, he does not sell the mules along with the wagon. Machar es haprados la machar es hakaron. If he sells the mules, he does not sell the wagon along with the mules. Machar es hatzemed la machar es habakar. If one sells a yoke, he doesn't sell the cattle along with the yoke. Machar es habakar lo machar es hatzemed. If somebody sells the cattle, he does not sell the yoke along with the cattle. Rabbi Yehuda says, Hadam and Modian, the amount of money that's being paid can serve as evidence as what's included included in the sale. Ketzad, how so? Amar lo mechor li tzimdecha b'masayim zuz. If he says to him, sell me your yoke for 200 zuz, hadavar yadua she'ein hatzemed b'masayim zuz. Everybody knows that a yoke is not worth 200 zuz, and so in that case, it is clear that the cattle come along with the yoke. But the Chachamim say, ein hadamim raya, the money cannot serve as evidence. Just because he's paying a larger amount of money does not mean that more is included within the sale. And the Gemara continues, Tani Rav Tachlifa bar Marava Kamid Rabbi Avo. Rav Tachlifa bar Marava taught before Rabbi Avo the following brisa: Mocher es hakaron, mocher es haprodus. If he sells the wagon, along with the wagon does come the sale of the mules. And so the Gemara asks, V'hanon lo mocher tznan. But in our Mishnah it says he does not sell, meaning to say the mules are not included in the sale. It seems to be that the brisa is contradicting our Mishnah. Amar le, so he said to him, Esamye, should I delete this particular brisa? Is it an incorrect brisa? Amar le, he said back to him, Lo, no, to targim masnisach, you could understand your brisa, ba'aduk and bo. The brisa is talking about where the mules are attached to the wagon at the time of the sale. In that case, they would come along with the sale of the wagon. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Machar satzemed lo machar sabakar v'chulu. If he sells the yoke, he does not include within the sale the cattle. And the Gemara said, Hechi dami, what exactly is the case? Ileima dekaru letzimda tzimda lebakar bakar. If you're going to say that in this particular location, they refer to a yoke as a yoke and cattle as cattle, they're separate things. So then pshita, so then it's obvious, of course, the cattle are not included within the sale. Tzimda zavinle, bakar lo zavinle. He sold the yoke, he didn't sell the cattle. Viela dekaru le nami lebakar tzimda, but then you're going to say that our Mishnah is talking about a location where they refer to cattle as the yoke, but then kulei zavinle, but then he certainly did sell everything to him. We would say that the cattle should be included in the sale in that case. And the Gemara answers, lo no tzricha, it's necessary, ba'asr dekaru le letzimda tzimdu lebakar bakar. This is a place where they call a yoke and cattle. V'ikonami, but there are those dekaru lebakar tzimda who refer to cattle as the yoke. So you have people that call in both ways, and that's the machlukas tanaim in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says, hadam modian, we can use the amount of money being paid as evidence to determine what's included in the sale. For Rabbanan Savri, but the Rabbanan hold ein hadamim raya, you can't use the amount of money as evidence. But the Gemara says v'yein hadamim raya, but if you're going to say that the amount of money does not serve as evidence, lahav bittul mekach, so at least we should say if the buyer overpaid by so much, we should say that the entire sale is nullified. That's not the implication of the Mishnah. The Mishnah seems to be saying that the Chacham are saying the amount of money is not evidence, but the sale goes through in terms of the actual yoke. That part of the sale would be effective, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Ches Amud Aleph.